Greg, starting off with them, we can talk about everything. He had a busy weekend as well, going backwards with the Colts, high school sports, and all kinds of things on your docket, brother. How was your weekend?
My weekend was busy as per usual. I had craziness on Friday night. I had the very much talked about Danville-Brebeuf game. That was the game of the state in the opening week of the tournament. And then obviously let's talk about from Colts and Texans yesterday afternoon. Some good, but obviously not enough to pick up a victory down in South Texas.
Yeah, daggone it. They've had a lot of divisional games already this early in the year, man, what a close one they had yesterday. They were coming off of back-to-back wins, and it looked like they were going to make it 3 in a row with a very important one over Houston, but it just wasn't to be as they go down 23-20, like you said.
Running game was there. Defense was there. Quarterback play was not. Now, or there's some drops by receivers. Yes, Tyler Goodson dropped a touchdown pass late in the game. I thought the Texans defenders made some good plays on balls that were thrown early in the game. But at the end of the day, when the starting quarterback is 10 for 32 and throws a pick that leads to 7 points when you should have gotten into halftime tied, there's enough that's on the quarterback. And again, that has been the constant refrain so far this year for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, it's kind of rough when your backup produces more than your starter, and I know he's kind of battled some injuries, but even when he's not, boy, Flacco is just, the offense seems to be a little smoother when he's in there.
I think all of us are surprised that there is this level of growing pains from Anthony Richardson. Again, we should have expected it to some degree, but Jim, frankly, he was a better quarterback in the limited sample size that we saw a year ago than he has been so far this year. And again, I don't think he was helped yesterday by some of the play calling from Shane Steichen. If you listen to some of our phone calls, you would think that the Colts should run the wishbone or the wing tee. That's not going to be the case. The run-pass balance ended up being not too overloaded. It was 32 passing attempts. It was 26 rushing attempts. Now, 6 of those are from the quarterback position, so a couple of those are design runs, but for the most part, those are more of quarterback scrambles. But whether it's, and I asked this question of Bill Brooks in the postgame show, one of the things that seemingly got stuck in a rut as the game went along, or especially early in the game, maybe not as much in the second half, but it was deep shot after deep shot. And again, that is the strength of Anthony Richardson, but it's something that you got to do in moderation. And so whether it's Anthony making the read or that it's Shane Steichen simply running plays that makes the read for him, get some 5-yard completions, get some 10-yard completions, try to get him in a better rhythm, and frankly, try to have less 3-and-outs. And I think the job the defense did yesterday, again, the time of possession was tilted in favor of Houston, maybe not as substantially as it was when the two teams got together back in week number 1. But given the amount of times that the offense handed Houston the ball back after 3-and-outs, and yet the defense kept getting stop after stop, I thought yesterday, for a lot of areas, was one of the best performances of the season for the Colts, and unfortunately, it did not result in a win.
No, it did not, and the schedule doesn't get a lot easier. They head up to Minnesota next, and then have a game against the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. So they've got to pick up and go on and kind of put that one in the rearview mirror and keep going forward.
You know what I would say, Jim? I would lean into your sponsor. You can call the next month the hard truth portion of the season for the Indianapolis Colts, because the 3 best teams they're going to play are going to be in the month of November. Buffalo being in that group. And again, here is, remember the old SI line, this week's sign, the apocalypse is upon us? I think the best football team in the NFL is the Detroit Lions. I mean, if you look at yesterday's scores, almost all of them are 1-score games. Not the Lions, buddy. Now, they played a terrible Titans team. They put up 52 on the Tennessee Titans. The Lions are crushing people. And that's who the Colts have the Sunday before Thanksgiving, rather. So 3 of the next 4 are Minnesota, are Buffalo. Then you get the Jets. Then it is the Lions. But here's the crazy thing: the Colts are very much still in the playoff conversation at 4-4. And what we thought the Colts schedule was going to be at the end of the season has not changed from what we thought it was going to be all the way back in May. Again, the Colts finish with Patriots by Broncos, and they're probably a little better than anticipated. But your last three games are the Titans, the Giants, and the Jaguars. So if this team can just kind of tread water and find a way to win a game or two the next month, they're in a position where they can still be a 10-win team and still be a playoff team. And when you haven't done that since 2020, since Phillip Rivers was your quarterback, then I think that there is still something to be accomplished and achieved this season.
There is no way that every time I hear his name that the song Old Man Rivers just doesn't jump into my head, although he was a great quarterback and didn't play like he was old when he closed out his career. So, but yeah, that's going back, and hopefully they can get things going and get them going forward quickly. The high school game, man, we're in the playoffs, and you had the game of the most talked about game of the weekend.
Correct. And I hate the way it ended just because it takes away from what was an amazing game of its own accord. I joked about this with a friend yesterday. We went from Stanford, Cal at the end of regulation to USA, Russia in the 72 Olympics at the end of it. And so simply put, I'm going to hit the fast forward button to the start of the fourth quarter, and you can, grab some of that hard truth lemonade or a coffee if you want to, start your Monday morning easily, because I'm going to talk about the next 2 minutes. So it's 35-14 at the start of the fourth quarter. Brebeuf is leading Danville, and Brebeuf and Danville are both top 10 teams in 4A. Brebeuf has been part of the story of the high school football season, as they had won games 83-65, 69-62, and 68-57 during the course of the regular season. But they're up 35-14 on Danville, who had won 8 consecutive games and really was kind of one bad fourth quarter against a good Gibson Southern team from being undefeated going into the postseason. Danville scores three consecutive touchdowns and decides to go for 2 and converts. So they're up 36-35 with 41 seconds left to play. As Brebeuf is trying to score against them, Brebeuf throws a pick six. Now, part of the story here would be if the young man that has the interception going down the sidelines, if he slides, takes a knee, whatever, Brebeuf does not have enough timeouts to fully stop the clock. Danville would have won the game. But again, I understand the emotions of a young man that sees the end zone and goes, I just wrapped up a win against one of the best teams in the state. So he takes it to the house. It's 43-35. Brebeuf gets the football back with 12 seconds left to go. They advance the ball to about the 40-yard line. They run the hook and lateral, and it works. The quarterback, Maverick Geske, is the last guy to touch the ball. He darts 35 yards for a score. Brebeuf has to convert a 2-point conversion, and it's 43-all. They're going to overtime. Danville gets the ball first. They score on 2 plays. They do not convert on 2. They decided to go for 2. So all Brebeuf has to do is score and kick the extra point and win the game. First 3 snaps only get 3 yards for Brebeuf. So it's 4th and goal at the 7-yard line. Their quarterback is scrambling. He's about to be sacked. He realizes that he has to drop the ball because if he goes down, season's over. So he drops the ball. A lineman picks it up but does not advance it. In theory, the game is over. However, in the confusion of the quarterback in the process of being sacked, some Danville players come onto the field. And after a deliberation, about a minute or two, a flag is dropped. Illegal participation is called against Danville. Ball gets moved to the 3-yard line. Brebeuf gets a second chance. They score. They kick the extra point. They have to do it twice because on the first one, Danville was offside, which is a dead ball penalty in high school football. Brebeuf wins the game 50-49, and I can't imagine the speech that Jamie Comer is giving at the end of the game to his Danville team. It was a rough, and that is being kind, way for a football game of that caliber to come to an end.
I know that I would not want to have been a participant of any kind on that losing side, especially as a player. That's something you don't forget. I mean, the rest of your life. I can tell you right now, there are things that that's some of the funnest time of your life, especially as an athlete. And you don't forget things like that ever.
No, no. And I said as much in the broadcast, and it turned into, hey, whoever loses this game is going to talk about this, for a generation or two. And I basically said, the town of Danville will never get over that game. I said that story will be passed down from generation to generation about the way that one unfolded.
Absolutely. And fortunately, in Bloomington, there was another game that did make people kind of just think about the fun side
True.
of things. Although they were down, their starting quarterback, Taven Jackson, stepped in and played well enough. He had just one pick in the game. So, and that was actually kind of a freak deal. It got a ball that got batted around. But this Indiana defense, man, did they step up again and set the tone early with a pick six and really just limited Washington in what they could do. Is kind of what I thought was going to be the story of the game. But this Indiana team, to continue winning, even without their starting quarterback, the most efficient quarterback in the country, they don't miss a beat. They still win 31-17. And man, this is just a blast. The environment, no question, Greg, this was the biggest environment. I know I was not there in the 60s and all that, but I don't think I had to have been. The environment could not come close to what it's been like for Indiana football. When you bring in Big Noon Kickoff, followed by College Game Day, and all that they did with that, with Lee Corso and all the surrounding things, it was just off of the chain.
And again, the timing in life is everything. But the fact that Lee is still part of the show, and obviously Lee, has ties to Florida State, as you well know, has ties to University of Louisville. But his longest tenure as a head coach was at Indiana University. And was it an overly successful tenure? No, because there's not been that many of them. But at least you have the 79 Holiday Bowl that you can kind of point to. Pat McAfee is now a part of College Game Day. And Pat is an adopted Hoosier. And so that adds to the environment. I love the fact that College Game Day is really kind of seeking out places to go that they don't go on a regular basis or haven't been before. Like having it at Berkeley, a few weeks ago, having it in Bloomington. And again, good on Reese Davis for saying, yeah, we were here before, but that was on a Thursday night. That is not this. And obviously, Hoosier Nation showed up and showed out. And so I am so happy. And Jim, I'm sure you can think of this. We all can, of people that are legitimately Indiana football fans, not IU fans, specifically Indiana football fans. Because Jim, we are the generation. It doesn't compute to those that are much younger than us, because it's not as much the case now. But say in the late 80s, early 90s, it was not uncommon to see your friend switch from wearing his Notre Dame football shirt in the fall to his Lord is my shepherd, but Bob Knight is my basketball coach hat in the winter, because their favorite teams were Notre Dame in the fall and IU in the winter. People, even with the success that Bill Mallory had, they weren't huge Indiana football fans. They are now. And so for all of those combinations of factors to kind of click into place, for Curt Cignetti to have this magical first season, it was a wonderful celebration of Hoosierdom on Saturday morning. And thank goodness the team continues to rise to the occasion. So there's not a yeah, but. There's not a yeah, but of, man, College Game Day was great. Wish you would have won the game. Nah, Indiana gets to enjoy all of it, and I am absolutely here for it.
Absolutely. And I do want to give a shout out to ESPN's College Game Day, because I had said multiple times, forget about it, people. They're not coming. They're not a partner with the Big Ten. And so their big game at night is not going to be a game of theirs. So I didn't think that they would come. I'll be honest with you. And I was completely wrong. So I've got to give a big shout out and mea culpa there. I do think that the Lee Corso thing was huge. Indiana celebrating the 1979 Holiday Bowl win, the first bowl win ever in Indiana history. Pat McAfee has led the charge. He loves what's going on. He loves Cignetti. He loves, of course, he's a football guy, and he loves to see this going on right down the road. His wife is a Hoosier. His father-in-law, as he mentioned, just recently passed away, was a gigantic IU fan. So there's a lot of IU people at ESPN in addition to Fox, but this is advertising and promotion that you just can't buy. You can't afford to buy this. That was a 3-hour commercial for Indiana University in Bloomington, Greg.
Very well said. And that's a friend of mine has written a book, basically called The Cinderella Effect. And this is usually reserved for those, upstart teams that make the Final Four, as to how a university cashes in. And obviously Butler is the biggest example of that, of how their 15 minutes of fame have turned into 15 years, how they turned, back-to-back national championship game appearances into being in the Big East. And maybe the basketball product has slipped a little bit the last handful of years, but they're still a member of one of the top 5 or 6 conferences when it comes to college athletics, and obviously the top one that does not sponsor football. We don't think about that in terms of Indiana University because of the size and scope of the university. But absolutely, that is a massive boost in terms of recruitment of students, not necessarily student athletes, doesn't hurt there either, but the general student population. And I can tell you this, probably there were some fundraising deals that were closed on Saturday as well. So the rising tide lifts all ships. That was the case on Saturday and beyond because of what this football team has accomplished so far this year.
Absolutely. What is up next for you?
So what's up next for me is more high school football. So I will have Lawrence Central and Lawrence North, a great rivalry game in week number 1 of the 6A football playoffs. And because of Brownsburg losing in week number 9, LN, who has only won 1 sectional in the last 34 years, they are number 1 in the state in 6A. And so they'll have that rivalry game coming up on Friday night. I'll have the soccer state finals coming up on Saturday evening. There are 6 championship games being played at Carroll Stadium on Friday and Saturday. I'll have the last 2. And then the Indy 11 are a playoff team, and they are at home on Sunday as they take on Rhode Island FC. And once that game is over with, I'll go do post-game show duty for the Indianapolis Colts, who are playing now on Sunday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. So just my standard weekend, Jim, that's coming up in about 4 or 5 days.
I hear you, brother. It is a busy, busy time, and you are one of the busiest people in the state. We appreciate you, brother.
And I'm sorry that our paths did not cross last week. My schedule done got blowed up, as we would say back home. So thanks for your grace, and look forward to being back with you next week.
It is always our pleasure and joy to have you, brother. Thank you so much, as always. Greg Rakestraw from the ISC Sports Network. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all the content